Hey everybody, it's me, Seth LeDonne. Today is January 7th, 2020. I'm going to rewind it back to January 7th, 2017. That's when I had my first solo painting exhibition. It was in a big space. If I had to guess how big it was huge. There was discussion about me having a show there a few months prior in 2016, but the time frame didn't work out. So I had to decline, and I just said, well, I'll just put that idea to have a show there on the back burner. So I don't know a whole lot about art, but I do know a lot about being social. So I was at an opening, and I remember I was just about ready to leave. And a friend of mine, he said, "You gotta stay, man. Like, let's hang out. Just like, come on." So I did. And then the gallerist slash director of the space, she arrived. And I said, "Hey, I'd still really like to have a show here sometime." She said, "What about January?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Don't disappoint me." So I left that night knowing, okay, I've got a show in January now at a bigger gallery, and I'll be able to do a lot more, and I'll have to do a lot more. And it was probably like September. It wasn't very far away, and I actually had another show to prepare for in October. The first show came about because I was at a zine fair, slinging zines, because that's what I was focusing on at the time, just doing some art books and photo books and things like that. And the director of a gallery said, "Hey, do you want to have a painting show? It's a really quick turnaround." I'm knowing that people are asking me things like this because maybe they like my work, but also they know that I have done a lot of really last minute projects. That's not a great reputation, but I ran with it and I said, sure. I thought, well, if I can prepare for both shows at once, that would be cool. Maybe some of the work from the first show will either inform the work of the second or even actually be in the second show too. So time went on and I got the first show together. I was really happy to be painting again. I went to school for painting and I kind of took a big break from it. And for a while I just made books and zines and did performances and wrote things and made some videos, whatever. Like I did a lot of different things. I had some gallery shows where I would maybe paint once a year. Traditional visual art wasn't really what I was focusing on. But after that show in November was done, I had pretty much December to kind of focus in on everything that I needed done for my big solo exhibition. I started planning it. I think I had access to the space a month beforehand, which was really cool. And I know that I got a lot of help. I know that an artist who I used to live with, he drove me over there one day and he had done installation before, and I just said, "Hey, can we look at the space?" And he just kind of give me some feedback on these ideas I have. It's not easy to just explain something that doesn't exist yet, right? So one night I bought a bunch of hoagies and we went to the gallery with my studio partner and her boyfriend and my best friend, and we just looked and I explained some of my ideas to them. I remember making little diagrams of some of the bigger paintings, little maquettes, and moving them around on a little map that I made. And this is the first time I'd really done something like this. And I was able to move some of the walls. Some of the walls were on wheels, and I kind of made it into 3 different rooms. They didn't have doors, but they were 3 different areas of the space. I eventually got some time off from my day job, and I asked a friend of mine, "Hey, I've got about a week where I'm just working on this. Could we schedule some time where I could pay you to help me move some paintings?" He said, yeah. As time went on, I needed more and more help because I had more and more work to do, even with just installing paintings or just hanging the show. I think we hung about maybe 50 small paintings and hung about 12 large scale ones. And I did some installation elements too, painted on the walls, painted on the floor, and that stuff just took forever. So now I've got someone almost working for me part-time for a couple weeks. But yeah, lots of late nights in that space, lots of being there till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, coming back the next day and just getting to work. You kind of felt bad using the heat because it had to heat up this giant room. But I know sometimes I would just start painting, going from one canvas to the next, running around the space, getting hyped, and that was, you'd heat up in no time. There were paintings that I had ideas for a while, and I said, I'm going to do these ideas now. So there's a few paintings specifically I remember painting in that space like I planned to, and there are some that I did more spontaneously in that space. I said yes to that show. I said yes to a show that happened like during the time that I was preparing for it. I think there's a lot of times where I want to say no, and like intuition I think is probably real, and I think that knowing that even if you kind of fail, you can just try again is an important thing. You know, there's a lot of things I've done and shows I've had that were not as personally fulfilling as this one was. So yeah, like I think that was almost like a little like a mini residency in a way. I've had a couple shows like that since then, and that really works for me because like I have a lot of concepts I want to work out. Sometimes even with a studio, you just don't really have like the space or the privacy really to just work the ideas out. That's one of my favorite things, is just having a set amount of time to really focus on a project. You know, there's this ideal of where you would book a show 2 years in advance and start painting like, you know, the year leading up to it. You have everything done like, you know, 4 months before. I just don't work like that. I love a deadline, and I can kind of try to create like fictional deadlines for myself to like put the pressure on my productivity. But my creativity, I think, needs big blocks of time, and focusing gets me really genuinely creative. So there's that huge build up to the show, and then the opening, like even if you enjoy it, it's just like a really quick flash and then it's over. You put all this work into an exhibition the next day, you're just like drained, right? So confusing day the next day. There's this like lament that would happen after a show where I'd say, oh, well, I got some photos, like, you know, they're fine. They could go on my website. I got lucky because a very successful photographer offered to shoot the show, and he asked me, can your assistant come? I didn't have an official assistant, but my friend who helped me luckily had some time, so I hired him again. We got the work done, you know, 3 people moving paintings around, on and off the walls, moving around 3 different rooms of a gallery, essentially, you know, getting up on ladders. It just took half a day, whatever. We shot fast, and then I had what I think was like my first professional documentation of a show. You know, I've always been a creative person who makes things, but without the documentation, it's just so much harder to like understand like where I was going or what my goals even are with my work without just actually like seeing those reminders of it and being able to like look and remember, like have it to trigger those ideas of, okay, this was when I was making this painting, this part worked, this didn't. Having a good image really made all that work worth it. If you have a friend who can shoot, you know, has good equipment and has the skill and the know-how and is willing to trade, I think that's like an amazing deal for an artist. I mean, I think it's big. You got to get good images. I think that's the main thing I've taken away from just thinking about this show. Thanks for taking this trip down memory lane with me, guys.